Welcome to the Epcotian Adventure,
a podcast where we'll talk about all things Disney, but we're Epcot-centered.
including tips and tricks, festivals and favorites, and the very latest in our rankings and reviews.
But we're still old enough to remember when it only cost 50 cents to park 50 feet from Disneyland's entrance.
This is episode 53, How to Disneyland If You've Only Disney World
Or, you're telling me you can walk between parks in a minute?
So now, please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast as we embark on our Epcot adventure. Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 53 of the Epcot Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And today's topic is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be a discussion on what you do if you want to go to Disneyland, but you've only ever been to Walt Disney World.
Yeah, we debated for a while on how to approach this episode. It's one that we've wanted to do for a long time, but they really are two different things. As similar as they are in nature and a lot of the rides, they really are two different things when you're planning a trip. So we decided, since Disney World is really our home park now, to approach it as if we're speaking to people who have been to Disney World and would like to try going to Disneyland. So that is where we're starting.
Yeah, so I mean, there's going to be a lot of similarities, but there's really more differences than there are things that are alike between the two parks. Believe it or not, Pirates is not Pirates. Mansion is not Mansion. And,
it is.
But Space Mountain is not Space Mountain.
It is. But
it's not.
But it's not. That's the thing with all of these. Like, they are, but they're not. So we're going to sort of start from the beginning, start from scratch, what's at each place, how you get there, where you stay, how you get between parks, how you
experience them.
Yes.
Because they are very different in nature and in culture. So we'll talk about
Very
all of
true.
these things. We're not going to get into, we're not going to be a travel agent for you. We're not going to say, take the Interstate 5 to blah, 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 blah. No, we're not going to do that. But let's really dive in and get back to basics. How do you visit Disneyland if you've only been to Disney World? So if you've only Disney World, I couldn't figure out if that was apostrophe ED or hyphen ED or whatever. Anyway, yeah.
Hey, Shakespeare made up words all the time.
Exactly.
So let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start.
It is. Well, let's talk about first, where are these parks? So obviously you've been to Disney World. You know it's in Orange County and Osceola County, Florida. Disneyland is in Orange County, California. I think Walt just liked oranges.
I think he did, even though he dug up a bunch of trees.
That's true. He did kind of destroy some orange groves to build Disneyland, but that's
Hashtag
okay.
worth it.
Definitely hashtag worth it.
But yes. California, land, Florida, world. I know people who have been to both still get it confused. That's where we start.
Yeah, you look at Disneyland in the size of acres. There's hundreds of acres for Disneyland Resort. Where at Walt Disney World, as you're probably aware, it's lots more than that. It's in miles. So at Disneyland, both parks are next to each other. All three hotels are next to each other. The parking is spread around the city, and that's the biggest difference between Disneyland and Disney World. Disneyland's in the middle of Anaheim, California. It's in a city, whereas Walt Disney World is surrounded by, gators and swamps and trees and
more gators.
Yeah, lots more gators, yeah.
But see, that's on purpose, because when Walt first built Disneyland in 1955, there were no theme parks. Nobody knew what he was doing, why he was measuring off footage in the middle of an orange grove. And so he bought the land he needed for what he thought he wanted to do, plus some, and he was surrounded by orange groves and farms. The city built up around him. So it very, very quickly became something that he didn't want, where you weren't surrounded by that Disney bubble, by the magic. You could look out of the Skyway, which was the Sky Buckets. At the time, they're not there anymore, but when you could look out of the Sky Buckets and see the freeway. You could see hotels. You could see cars going by. He hated that. He wanted you to be immersed in the magic, and he lost that. So when it was time to find acreage for Disney World, He very purposely went in the middle of a swamp and picked a place that there wasn't anything and bought way more land than he needed. Kind of secretly, kind of on the sly.
Thank heavens, though, because
Thank heavens.
he was able to get miles worth of land where at the beginning of Disneyland he could only afford acres.
Right. Yeah, so the fact that you are in a Disney bubble, which we've talked about before, we'll talk about it a little bit again, but at Disney World is very purposeful. The side effect of that is you can walk between parks at Disneyland, and you very much cannot at Disney World.
Yeah, that's one thing that is unique to Disneyland that Disney World does not have is park hopping. It's literally a 1-minute walk from the exit of Disneyland to the entrance of California Adventure. It's across a plaza, not across acres of or miles of highway.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a bus between parks. There's no such thing as a Skyliner. You don't take the monorail between parks. You can take the monorail if you want to. It actually stops inside Tomorrowland at Disneyland, and you can take it to downtown Disney. So if you were staying at one of the 3 Disney hotels, you could walk in that morning through downtown Disney. You get to the plaza, you can pick a park. There's one on your right, one on your left, and that's it.
Makes park hopping very easy also.
Yes.
So it makes Genie Plus for the 2 parks also a very good investment because you can literally park hop back and forth in the same time that at Magic Kingdom would take you to walk between Frontierland and Fantasyland.
Right. It's really smart to invest in a park hopper if you're doing the California parks because you can literally be in Adventureland getting off of Jungle Cruise and go, hey, let's go ride Incredicoaster and be over there in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's almost as easy to think of the 2 parks at Disneyland Resort, so Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure, as one park because they are so close. Now, of course, at Walt Disney World, you cannot do that. You can walk between Hollywood Studios and Epcot, but it still takes you a half an hour to do so.
Right. And if you're walking from one of the resorts, you can walk from the deluxe resorts, the monorail resorts, Contemporary, Polynesian, and Grand Floridian. You can walk those to Magic Kingdom. But again, it's not quick. It's a beautiful walk, but it's not a fast walk.
So part of the Disneyland Resort between the hotels and the parks is downtown Disney. Now, if you're used to Disney Springs at Walt Disney World, Disney Springs, again, is huge.
It's a destination in itself.
It is, and Disneyland's version of that, which is downtown Disney, is not. It is, but it's not. It's very small. Think of it about the size of the west side of Disney Springs, and that's about the size of Disneyland's downtown Disney. It connects the 3 resort hotels to the Disneyland Plaza area between the 2 parks.
Now, the upside of this is that it's very quick to access. If you're inside the parks and you're like, hey, let's go get some salt and straw and eat some bugs in our ice cream, you can do that.
Or you just want something that's more of a sit-down restaurant that you just don't see in the 2 parks. There's a lot of really good options there at downtown Disney.
Yes. So you can very easily go access that and then park hop or go right back into the park you were at. Whereas at Disney World with Disney Springs, it's a whole nother park hopping adventure to get from the parks to Disney Springs. And you actually can't get from Disney Springs to the parks directly. You have to take alternate routes.
Yeah, where at Disneyland, depending on if you walk from the parking structure or one of the main structures, you can walk right through downtown Disney to get to the parks.
Exactly.
It's completely opposite. But I still like the compactness of Disneyland's downtown Disney, I think, just a little better than Disney Springs. You have your Earl of Sandwich restaurant. You have your Salt and Straw ice cream. You have your Starbucks. You have Ghirardelli, although it's inside the California Adventure Park, but it's there. And you have a lot of fantastic restaurants from the Patina Group, the same group that runs a lot of the ones at downtown Disney.
And me, I prefer Disney Springs. I love downtown Disney because it does have those things and it is accessible from the parks so easily. But I could spend a whole day at Disney Springs. I love the shopping. I love the Morimoto and Jock Lindsay's and the giant lake out there. It's just beautiful. And you lose a little bit of that at Disneyland's version.
Because of the size.
Because of the size.
So let's talk resort hotels. Disney World has over 20 resort hotels. Now, it depends on how you count those. Like the number 20 does not include the Swan and the Dolphin. It doesn't include Shades of Green. It doesn't include the Hotel Plaza or Flamingo Crossing hotels.
Or any of the DVC
towers. Yeah, like the Bay Lake Tower.
Right.
Instance, yeah.
Or the new ones they're building at the Poly.
Right. Disneyland has the Disneyland Hotel, which is the original. Then it has the Grand Californian, which is adjacent to and has its own entrance into Disney California Adventure. And the newest of them is the new Disney's Pixar Place Hotel, which used to be the Disneyland, oh heavens, it's been several, the Disneyland Pacific Hotel, and it was the...
something Pier.
Paradise Pier Hotel.
Paradise Pier.
Yeah. It's recently just undergone a major renovation and is now called the Disney's Pixar Place Hotel. And it's right across from Pixar Pier at California
And
Adventure.
has its own entrance.
And has its
there.
own entrance. Yes, it does.
So the advantage there is that they are all very, very compact, very accessible to both parks. And there's just the three of them, so there's not a lot of choices involved. Disadvantage, they would all pretty much be considered deluxe resorts.
Yeah, they're very expensive.
They're not cheap. But the other thing is that, as Rod was mentioning, with the Good Neighbor hotels in Orlando, which you may be familiar with, which are, name a couple of those.
You'd have the Hilton Buena Vista Palace, and you would have the ones over at Flamingo Crossing, which are the new Marriott resorts, the Fairfield, and there's also a Hampton Inn and a few others over on the west side. So those are all on Disney property, but they're considered Good Neighbor hotels.
So you get some of the perks of staying at a Disney resort without the price, but not all of the perks of staying at a Disney resort. Now, at Disneyland, you are literally surrounded by hotels. They are everywhere, and a bunch of them are name brand, and a bunch of them are walking distance. Some of them even closer than the actual Disneyland resorts.
Yeah, there's a Marriott property right across the street from Disneyland on the Harbor Boulevard side, and you can walk there quicker than you can from the Disneyland Hotel.
We used to stay right across the street, right across Harbor Boulevard, at the Carousel. Is that still there?
No, the Carousel was taken out and is owned by, the property is owned by Disney now.
Oh my gosh.
And eventually will be access to a new parking garage they're going to build off of Manchester.
Ooh.
The street, 2 streets over from the park.
Nice.
On the south side of the park.
But the point being that there are so many options, and we used to love to stay there because you could literally walk across the street and enter the park. And we could stand up on the top and watch cast members clock in.
At Harbor Point, that's true.
And when we were kids, like that was a big deal.
There's also still a Howard Johnson's at the corner of Harbor and Manchester, and it has what they call the Matterhorn cam. And it actually has a link, and you can watch the Matterhorn and the monorail go by and all that 24/7. It's one of those things that you can get just a quick look into Disneyland from one of the hotels just across the street from the park. That's how close they are.
Little real-time Disney fix.
So the Disney bubble at Anaheim has been increased over the years because they've gotten rid of the parking lot that was in front and made that California Adventure. They added on 2 more hotels on the other side of the park. And they've increased the size of the berm and trees all the way around the park. So in the days before where you could see outside of the park now, it's a lot more hard now than you can,
Yes.
or than it was before. Except for from the monorail, of course.
Right. There are still those little spots where you can see outside the berm, but they've done better at containing it.
So the monorail is a good example of transportation differences between Walt Disney World and Disneyland. The monorail is actually considered an attraction inside Disneyland. You board just above the sublagoon, and it will take you around Tomorrowland and then out to the Disneyland Hotels area in Disney or downtown Disney. And
which is also a great thing because there is still no alcohol in Disneyland. And
there is now. You can get wine now inside of the Blue Bayou.
Whoa. I did not realize that. My heart hurts a little bit for Walt on that. I have to admit it. But that monorail, being able to take that directly to the hotel, there are lots of lounges and, of course, Trader Sam's and that sort of thing over there where you can get a quick nosh and a drink if you want to do that in the early evening or if you're brunching or whatever. I don't know why I'm still talking.
No, it's funny. The monorail is a good example, though, of how quick you can get outside the park and to other locations. When I was working Country Bear Jamboree one night, these 2 very nice German tourists came in and asked, "Is this for beer?" And I said, bears. Yes, bears. Country bears right down here. They walked down to the end of the hall, walked back up, and they said, no, beer. And then made the hand gesture like drinking a beer. I'm like, oh, no, you have to get on the monorail, take it to the Disneyland Hotel, and go to Sergeant Preston's. That's now gone, but at the time, that was the closest place to get an alcoholic beverage.
Adult beverage.
Yeah, but the monorail being part of the park made it very easy to get to the resort hotels and get outside into the outside of the bubble. Where at Magic Kingdom, you have to take the monorail or the ferry boat or a bus or a boat to just leave the park. Or you can walk a little ways to some of the hotels, like we said. But
right.
Another one of the biggest transportation differences is going to be how do you get just to the resort. So at Florida, you usually will fly into Orlando and you'll take Mears Shuttle, which makes it very easy to get to your hotels, to the resort. It's not as easy as you think it's going to be in Southern California. If you fly into Santa Ana or into LAX, those are the two most common airports people will fly into. There's not a direct Disney-centric connection to the resorts like there is in Florida. So note this, that if you're planning to go to Disneyland, look into Uber or Lyft as a very good possibility, or a car rental service if you're going to rent a car. If you're going to be in Southern California anyway, you might as well go see Universal Studios, SeaWorld, Legoland.
Knott's Berry Farm.
Wait a minute, those sound just like Florida. Knott's Berry Farm. That's unique, yes. But you want to go to down to the ocean because you can't do that. No, you can do that in Florida too. Okay, well, so there's some things that are very similar, but Southern California, culture-wise, is very car-driven. See what I did there?
That was good.
Car-driven because you're in a car. Anyway, but if you want to rent a car, you can do that and park at the resort. But just note, hotels at Disneyland will still charge you for parking. Magic Kingdom hotels, Epcot hotels, Disney World hotels do not. Major difference.
It is a major difference. And I do also just want to take a second. Both Rod and I have lived in LA. We lived in Orange County, lived all over down there. If you've never driven in LA traffic, believe the hype. It is its own experience. Don't be afraid of it. It can be very useful. But please know that you have to plan at least twice as long as you think you do to get from place to place. And I'm not kidding. So just do yourself a favor. Don't tell your friends you're going to meet them for dinner across town and think, oh, we can do that in 15 minutes. You cannot. You'll need an hour to do that.
Yeah, and I've lived in Florida before. So if you're from Florida or if you're used to the Disney World traffic getting into the resorts, think of it as Saturday morning traffic between the Beeline and the resorts 24/7. And that's the normal, speed limits down there mean nothing because you're either doing 10 miles an hour or everybody's doing 80. So,
or you're at a dead stop.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to the radio for traffic alerts and you hear anything about a SIG alert, that is a dead stop on the freeway. And you're just going to sit there and wait it out.
Yep. KFWB. You give us 22 minutes and we'll give you the world.
Very
and
nice.
They'll go into traffic on the 6s every 6 minutes. No, every 10 minutes.
That would be every 10 minutes.
I can add.
Even I can do that, Matt.
But yeah, it is a very big challenge getting transportation from the airports to the parks in California. A lot more choices in Florida.
Yeah, so just something to keep in mind if you are going to rent a car, which is a useful thing to have in SoCal. So.
It is, yes. Now, that's one nice thing about being compact, though, too. If you take an Uber or Lyft to the resort and you do not plan to do anything other than Disney, you don't need a car. You can walk to everything. Right across the street on the Harbor Boulevard side, you have a Denny's, an IHOP. McDonald's, one of the most expensive McDonald's on the planet. You're going to think you were back in the airport looking at the prices.
There's still a Mimi's Cafe.
There's a Mimi's Cafe. There is a Tony Roma's if you like ribs. There's plenty of restaurants right literally across the street from the park.
All within walking distance.
Yeah, as opposed to having to drive into Kissimmee to get those name brand restaurants.
All right. Should we go ahead and go into the parks?
Let's go in the parks.
Now, I want to say this right up front. If you've only been to Disney World and you've experienced the gloriousness, which is Cinderella's castle at the end of Main Street, please do us the courtesy of not laughing at our sweet little castle.
It's It's little.
She's very little. It's Sleeping Beauty's castle.
But it's the one Walt walks through when you see the picture of him walking through the park.
It's true.
Oh, it's Walt's castle.
It is Walt's castle, and it is gorgeous. And, little tip, something that you would never even expect if you didn't know to look for it, because it's definitely not a thing in Florida. You can walk through the castle.
It's its own attraction.
Yes. There's a little tiny door. It's probably not tiny, but it's little. There's a door that you can go through, and there's just a simple sign. But you walk through, there's lots of stairs, and it's dark, so be very careful through there. But it tells you the story of Sleeping Beauty in beautiful...
Beautiful inside.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous.
Beautiful.
The windows, it actually got a glow up just not too long ago, and the special effects got redone. And
add a lot of projection mapping, too, in a small scale, and it's amazing what they've done in there for the storytelling.
It's so incredible.
Walt would be very proud of how it looks now.
Oh, he would love it. So that is something not to be missed. It's very unique to Disneyland, and it makes our castle, a little more unique.
So some of the other rides or attractions inside Disneyland Park that are similar to what you see around Walt Disney World, you're going to have Buzz Lightyear. You're going to have Peter Pan. It's a small world, of course. And some things that just look the same but are a little different. At the Magic Kingdom, for instance, you have the Barnstormer. At Disneyland Park in Toontown, you have the Gadget Coaster. So they're very similar in nature. Now, things that are exactly the same, Tiki Room, Jungle Cruise, Galaxy's Edge is exactly the same.
We call it Galaxy's Edge, Batuu East and Batuu West. To distinguish.
Yeah. Big Thunder Mountain is a mirror image.
But better at Disneyland.
But I like it better at Disneyland. The story's told a little better on the last lift, and I'll leave that to you seeing it because it's a very explosive ending. And hopefully something we get at Magic Kingdom soon.
I would hope so. Winnie the Pooh, also very similar ride. Better at Disney World on this one. But very, very similar. Jungle Cruise, very similar. You just don't have the ruins and the tiger, the very large snake.
Yeah, Star Tours, Journey of the Little Mermaid, the Tom Sawyer Island. Those are very similar as well.
Yes. At Pirates is similar, but
you have to see the original at Disneyland to appreciate Disney World.
Disney World is really Pirates Light.
It is. Disneyland's version is the original. It's the one Walt worked on and the last attraction that he oversaw the construction of. And you can still feel Walt in that attraction. As a matter of fact, if you heard our ghost stories, you can still feel Walt inside that attraction.
And possibly hear him snore.
Yeah. But Pirates California is the one that all of the others are judged off of. And
yes.
Magic Kingdom's, I like to refer to it as cute.
I still love Magic Kingdoms because it's the one that we get to go on more often. But you do not miss Pirates at Disneyland, even if you think, nope, we've got that in Florida. It's skippable. Don't
I
skip
do
it.
like the queue in Florida better. The Castillo de Moro is beautiful.
I'm torn because I love walking in and seeing the boats immediately.
That's true. You actually get to go up the waterfall at Disneyland's Pirates.
That's true.
You get off just before it goes up the waterfall.
And count the pairs of eyes. That's
California.
what I always do. Another similar one, but not to be missed, would be
Haunted Mansion. Yes.
So very similar, even more similar now that we have Hatbox Ghosts visiting Disney World.
Finally. Thank you, Andy. Anyway, listen back to our Andy Hammer interview in our previous episodes. But half the year, Disneyland has an overlay for I'm just going to call it the holidays now because it's Halloween and Christmas. It's a Nightmare Before Christmas overlay.
And it's brilliant.
And it runs August through January.
Even if you think you're not a fan of the movie or have never even seen the movie, you need to see this overlay. It's awesome.
And then you'll come back to Magic Kingdom and go, why? Why don't we have this?
Their Small World also gets an overlay at Disneyland.
It does, and it's really fun. And again, that one doesn't make any sense to me. There's no reason that Florida's can't have that overlay.
I know.
They can put it up at Disneyland in less than a week.
Now,
a week, I should say.
We did say Small World is a very, very similar attraction and can be skippable if you've done it at Disney World over Disneyland. But you have to at least go see it because it is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous, huge, Mary Blair-inspired art everywhere. It is one of the icons of the park as opposed to just an awning. So definitely go see It's a Small World. You can also, little pro tip, because the castle is smaller, you can also see projections and fireworks from over on that side. So if you want to see some different projections, alternate projections, during the nighttime spectacular, you can go over to It's a Small World and see them there.
The fireworks are a lot louder, though. One thing you're going to notice, though, at Disneyland is fireworks are not every night.
Right.
It's because it's in the city. They don't do them on most school nights. So during the summer, during the holiday periods, Christmas especially, you will find them nightly. But during the off-season, January, February, March, you're not going to see fireworks nightly.
They'll do projections, they'll do music, but you won't have the fireworks.
What you want to do on those nights is go over to California Adventure and see World of Color.
Yes.
That's a nighttime spectacular over there. Or Fantasmic, when it starts running again at Disneyland, will run. It has low-level fireworks, but it's not the large-scale fireworks like you see. And if you're used to Fantasmic at Hollywood Studios, this is the original version, but it's now been upgraded. Since poor Murphy burned down.
Yeah, the
poor
dragon caught
on fire. They've put together a brand new version of Fantasmic that'll be coming out here in just a few months. And if you get a chance to see it, do so. But note, it's in Frontierland. So therefore, you're standing in a land, not sitting in a theater. So you need to get there even earlier than you would for the version at Hollywood Studios if you plan to see it at Disneyland.
If that's a priority for you and you want to make sure you have a good seat, you want to sit along the riverfront facing Tom Sawyer Island, and that's where you're going to get the good view. It seems weird when you're used to having its own theater and its own seating. There's none of that at Disneyland.
The amazing thing at Disneyland's version, though, is you're looking at Tom Sawyer Island, and the entertainment appears before you. It comes up out of the ground. It comes from the side, from the around the rivers of America. It is amazing. They use the Columbia sailing ship as a pirate ship.
It's a whole Peter Pan sequence that is amazing.
Well, and the Mark Twain is the ending finale, where at Studios, it's that little bitty 3-story version that's really cute. They use the full-scale Mark Twain, so think the Liberty Bell.
Yes.
And that's what they're using for the ending of Fantasmic at Disneyland.
Such a great finale. I love that. Other things that are similar, the Walt Disney World train is very similar to the Disneyland train, with the exception of the Grand Canyon sequence. You can see the Grand Canyon and the dinosaurs. Yeah,
it's the dinosaurs from the 1964 World's Fair. So these are some old dinos now.
They are.
They may be older than the actual dinosaurs. Well, anyway, they are on the train. Or not on the train. That would be...
Yikes.
That'd be bad. That'd be like Universal Studios, where they're trying to eat you. Between the Tomorrowland station and the Main Street station, you go through a diorama of the Grand Canyon, and then the Primeval World.
It seems very odd. It is a little weird, but it's kind of cool.
Think the dinos from Energy.
Yeah,
that you used to see. That's very similar to what you go through.
Yeah.
But it's just a nice breakup of the train. It's also the only air-conditioned part of the train, so if it's really hot, the train actually has air conditioning.
It will never get as hot as it is in Florida, so you have that going for you.
The most famous difference, of course, though, is going to be the Matterhorn bobsleds. Yes. There is nothing even close to this at Disneyland. Well, I say that. The Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom uses a very similar track design, but it's all indoors. Space Mountain in California is side by side and is more of a traditional roller coaster feel. If you like Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom, you're going to love the Matterhorn. It's the original tubular steel tracked coaster. Matter of fact, you just heard us talk about that in our last episode. It's very rough. It should be sponsored by a chiropractor.
Absolutely. They could make bank putting a chiropractor stand at the end of that ride.
But it is definitely something that is not at the Magic Kingdom. Now, here's something, I don't know if this is a myth or not, but when I was going through my training at Magic Kingdom, I was down in the Utilidors, and a cast member pointed out over on the Tomorrowland side near Fantasyland where it turns a corner, and they showed me a flat piece of wall that looked like it was part of an octagonal cement structure, almost. They said, this was poured originally for the Matterhorn to be here. Now, put it down in the comments. Please let me know. This is what I was told during training at Magic Kingdom as part of Tomorrowland attractions. So, I still think it's probably true, but I've never found anybody who's ever repeated it other than that one cast member. So,
was he making it up?
Curious
we don't know.
If that story still is part of the lore at the East attractions there at Magic Kingdom.
Just a couple more things that are pretty much the same that you could skip if you are familiar with Disney World. The Autopia at Disneyland is basically the Speedway.
I think it's
cars,
a little
same
better.
everything.
It actually has some elevation change.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
And it's a lot longer.
But it's about this. Well, yes. It's literally twice as long.
Literally twice as long, yeah.
Star Tours is at Disneyland as opposed to at the studios. Exactly the same. Little Mermaid is over at DCA, but very similar. So those are all sort of the things that you can skip if your time is limited, if you don't want to repeat attractions. Those are all things that have very, very similar vibes. So now let's talk a little bit about the more unique things. What do you want to make sure that you get on? Other than pirates, which we already said.
Well, yeah, so at Magic Kingdom, some of the things that you're not going to see repeated, of course, are going to be Tron, because that's brand new. It's in Shanghai, but not at Disneyland. Country Bear Jamboree, also not at Disneyland. The People Mover was gone now. Carousel of Progress started at the World's Fair, went to Disneyland, is now at Magic Kingdom, not at Disneyland. And Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Those are all things very unique. And, of course, all of the other attractions that are around the Walt Disney World Resort at the other parks.
Right. We're just sort of comparing Magic Kingdom to Disneyland Park.
Right. So here's some things at Disneyland that are incredibly unique, and you have to not miss these things.
Yes. Now, we talked about the castle already, so don't make sure that you don't miss that. A lot of people walk right by it. One of my personal favorites is Alice in Wonderland. She gets her own dark ride in Fantasyland, and you get to ride in a big caterpillar, and it's awesome. If you are a fan of dark rides, Disneyland Fantasyland is your place to be.
One of the odd things, though, is the Alice attraction was built right over the top of, all right, don't hate me for saying this, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And yes, Mr. Toad is still at Disneyland. I know he got evicted by Pooh, but at Disneyland, the Country Bears got evicted by Pooh. So I think we have a vendetta against mogul. Pooh. Yeah. But Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is still there.
Another great dark ride. I love that one. Also, not to be missed in that same vein is Snow White. And they just redid this. It used to be Snow White, and then they changed it to Snow White's Scary Adventures, and now it's Snow White's Enchanted
Wish.
Yes. We'll go with that. Enchanted Wish.
And again, a full update using modern technology, including the projection mapping, and it's just gorgeous inside now. And again, don't be haters. I know it's not at Magic Kingdom anymore. They evicted them for the princesses there. So Snow White kind of evicted herself, I guess. But I
guess so. And then the last of the dark rides, I'm doing little air quotes with my fingers.
Bunny quotes.
Bunny ears. Which is sort of appropriate to do bunny ears because the last one would be Roger Rabbit. So Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin does get his own ride over there. It's exactly the same as Tokyo, but they don't have it at Florida, so you can't experience that.
Kind of like the teacups in a dark ride. You get to spin and spin and spin in the attraction. One very unique attraction, too, that's replicated in Paris is Pinocchio's Daring Journey, and that's also a dark ride. So as you can tell, Fantasyland is full of dark rides. Mermaid is there, but it's over at California Adventure. Those Fantasyland dark rides that Walt originally created mostly are all still there. And still
Winnie
intact.
the Pooh is over in
Pooh's in Critter Country, yeah. But that's the same. That's almost an exact duplicate of the one at Magic Kingdom.
Well, the ending's a little different story-wise.
That's true.
And you don't get to bounce with Tigger.
Come, Tigger! Come bounce with me!
True. The ride vehicles are different.
They are.
That is true. And it's Pooh's birthday.
Yes.
Which makes no sense to the entire storyline,
and
but
at
whatever.
the end, they have a Pooh party, which just sounds wrong. I just can't wrap my head around
celebrate
that one.
Pooh. The old Fantasyland means something different at Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom, the old Fantasyland, was where the subs were, and now that's Belle and Ariel and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. The new Fantasyland, or the old version or parts of the old Fantasyland at Disneyland, include Storybook Land canal boats and Casey Jr. circus train. These are very unique to Disneyland. It's an outdoor boat ride through miniatures of the Disney
tales.
Stories. Yeah.
You could go by and see a tiny version of Belle's Village and the Beast Castle, and then you go around and you see Agrabah, and you see just like miniature versions of them, and there's a actual live narrator still on the boat, which is a rarity these days.
Really cool. Casey Jr. is up and above all of that. So you can look down and see the boats as they're going around.
Now,
And
Casey Jr. is the train that took Dumbo and the circus party between locations when they were on the move. So you get to sit in an animal cage, or you sit in benches that have the little calliope thing on them. So it's all circus themed, of course, but very gentle, very slow moving train.
no height requirement on that one. On either of those, actually, which is very nice.
I have very, very fond memories of riding this with Mom as a kid and sitting in those animal cages and just thinking that was the coolest thing. So if you have littles, Casey Jr. is a must.
If you have heard about the changes coming to Disney Animal Kingdom for the Dinoland area, and you're a fan of Dinosaur, believe it or not, there was an attraction built at Disneyland before Dinosaur that had the exact same layout for Indiana Jones. You've probably heard about it over the years, but Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye is an attraction that opened back in the 90s and is a mirror image, or I'm sorry, is a duplicate image, actually, of the ride at Animal Kingdom. However, it's all Indy themed, and it's much better.
Huge and brilliant and
Yeah.
so immersive. It's amazing.
For those of you not wanting Dino to go and not have Indy come in, the reason you don't is because you haven't seen Indy at Disneyland. So if you go to Disneyland, you have to do Indiana Jones.
Now we're hoping for a whole new adventure to come to Animal Kingdom and not a complete duplicate of the Forbidden Eye, just because we like individual things. But the idea and the storyline and the characters coming in would be so amazing.
I'm hoping that's what they do at Animal Kingdom.
Yes, fingers crossed. And this one is a little scary, just like Dinosaur is, where it's kind of slow moving, but it's considered a thrill ride. Same thing here. So if you have littles, this may not be the place for them. I remember the first time I went on this with my friend Andy, and we literally thought we were going to die. So it does get a little scary at points, but it is a good time.
Now, don't tell me that wasn't big fun.
One of the biggest things is the subs is still there. If you were a fan of 20K or the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea at Magic Kingdom and Fantasyland, the subs still exist at Disneyland. They sit between Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. And it's Nemo. It's almost the exact same thing that you have at Epcot in the Living Seas or the Seas with Nemo and Friends now. But instead of a ride-through vehicle, like a Omnimover kind of a thing, you're in the sub.
It's pretty cool.
It's still there.
One thing
They're
I do want to
awesome.
mention while we're talking about the subs real quick, the subs and the castle, the walkthrough of the castle, neither one of these are accessible.
Yes, that's true. If you have any mobility issues, the subs and the castle are not friendly to that. Now, they do have an alternate experience that you can do at the subs
Yes.
on a video monitor where you can actually see the show elements go by. And it's kind of a neat way to do it. I've actually done it before just to see what it looked like. And it's a good representation of the storyline, even though you're not down in the sub.
But it allows you to experience at least the story, even though you're not getting the full effect. But I thought it was a nice thing that they added that in. So I just want to mention that real quick. The only other thing would be back over to the river.
Yeah, the river.
The Columbia... What's the full name of it? Columbia Sailing Ship?
It's the sailing ship Columbia,
There
is
we
what they
go.
call it. And it's referred to as one of the big boats by the cast members. The Mark Twain is the riverboat.
Just like Liberty Bell.
Very good point. The Columbia is a large masted boat that was built for the rivers of America.
It's the one that we were just mentioning is part of Fantasmic. They use as Hook's ship, the pirate ship.
Yeah, you can ride it during the day when it's open. During the off-season, sometimes, well, off-season, like that exists anymore.
I know, right?
Used to be in the off-season, it would be in dry dock or over in the boat area, the storage area over by the Haunted Mansion. Nowadays, I think they generally run both of them because it's needed
There
for
is no
capacity.
off-season,
There's no
yeah.
off-season anymore.
And also along the river, you're also going to find the canoes.
Yeah. I remember my days on the canoes back in the 90s. I actually had a 4-pack. Never had quite the 6-pack from that, but doing the rowing out there was a great exercise. And it's still fun. You can't do it at Magic Kingdom anymore. The only two places you can do it now are still Disneyland and at Tokyo Disneyland.
Now, 2 tips for you. 1, you actually do have to row. These are not on a track. You have to listen to your guide and actually participate and row your boat. And 2, do not let your children drink the water.
Yes, both of those things happen. And actually, I was just conversing with an old cast member friend of mine, Paul Bast, the other day. Paul, if you're listening, thanks for reminding me. We used to say, if you don't row, you don't go. And that is so true on that ride.
But
and
you know what does go? The ducks. All in the water. So don't drink the water.
Couldn't believe I used to have to tell kids not to drink the water. And the parents would yell at me, why not? And I say, yep, the ducks do more than swim in the water. And it's true. Don't drink the water.
Just don't do it.
Hey, Lise, I dare you to drink the water. I'm not sure that is water.
Also, good times when you're in the front row for Fantasmic when the water gets sprayed on you. So just keep that in mind.
That is very true. The whale tail water spray can actually hit you at Disneyland.
I don't know,
if
but
that's a
either
thing
way,
studios,
it's not coming out of the river.
No, it's
coming out of
yeah.
water. Yeah.
It's green water.
Good times. Well, we love Disneyland. We love Disney World. We love that people can experience both of them and have a great time getting some unique experiences at both. I'm so glad that they didn't try to just repeat every single thing and that there are still unique things to be experienced at both.
Yeah, some of the best food that you're going to find inside of a theme park is going to be at Disneyland. Now, if you're used to Magic Kingdom food, a lot of people like to say how bad it is. You've got Tony's and you've got Plaza Restaurant and you've got Cosmic Rays and you've got Pinocchio Village House.
It's all meh.
It's all fast food is fast food at the parks. They're burgers. They're burgers. They're burgers. They're burgers. They're not going to. They're going to dress them up and charge you $20. Period. But here's what you don't have at Magic Kingdom. You don't have good churros. You don't have the Blue Bayou where you can sit inside the Pirates of the Caribbean and have prime rib. And at lunch you can have the amazing
Monte Cristo
sandwiches.
The world famous Monte Cristo. Yeah, also Bengal barbecue to be found in Adventureland. I would give up every other restaurant at the Magic Kingdom in order to have a Bengal barbecue.
Skewers of meat. They have bacon wrapped asparagus, for heaven's sakes.
It is a walk-up window, folks. Like, there's no reason this can't exist.
And the food at Bengal barbecue, I'll put up against any restaurant except for one at Magic Kingdom, and that's going to be the Skipper's Canteen.
Yeah.
I love Skipper's Canteen.
But yeah, it beats everything else out of the water.
The fried chicken at the Plaza Inn.
Yep.
The corn dogs at the Red Wagon.
The grilled cheese sandwiches of many various kinds that appear seasonally at Jolly Holiday. I mean, it's all good. Oh,
the beignets
Rancho del Zocalo.
Yes, Rancho del Zocalo has fantastic California Mexican food, which if
So
you're used to
good.
Mexican food in Florida, eat Mexican food in California. That
But
is
so
true.
much better. It's all just better at Disneyland. So
Beignets and mint juleps in New Orleans Square.
alcohol-free mint juleps.
The pommes frites at Cafe Orleans.
Tommy's Frities. So good. And you know what? Even at the snack carts, if you are at Disney World and you're at Magic Kingdom and you run into a snack cart, unless it's the spring rolls,
Right.
you're seeing
Adventureland.
mediocre churros, popcorn, or ice cream.
Pretzels.
Or Mickey pretzels. Don't get the Mickey pretzels.
Don't get the Mickey pretzels.
That's about all that the snack carts have to offer. At Disneyland, do not walk past them without looking at the menu. Because if you see
The chimichangas. The breakfast chimichangas
there's
before they
breakfast
run out.
ones, they have them till they don't. And then the lunch ones. It's at a walk-up cart. People, do you understand what I'm saying?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Like, just don't miss it. Don't walk past. And we've been hearing all about the cheesy garlic bread that you can get in
that's
Fantasyland right now.
Oh.
We haven't gotten to try it yet, but we are anxious
And again,
to try
from
it.
a walk-up.
From a walk-up cart. There's Magic Kingdom, you have no excuse.
Yeah, there's
So,
no excuse. It's
Step
just
up your
not.
game. So
Yeah.
maybe one of these days Magic Kingdom will get the love it deserves and get some good quick service restaurants in there. But for now, Disneyland wins that fight. So if you are familiar with Disney World and you have never gone to Disneyland, do not walk past those snack carts, and feel free to eat anywhere you want because it's all going to be amazing.
For more information on things that you should do at Disneyland, listen to our episode on building the perfect day at Disneyland with or this or that, which is episode number 25. Also, episode 35, we did a this or that Disneyland versus Disney World. that will give you a lot of more information as well about Disneyland and what there is to do there.
And which we prefer. If you care about our opinions, you can have your own. It's okay.
And we'd love to hear your own opinions. Let us know what you would love to hear about Disneyland. We would love to know, what more would you like us to do for Disneyland on the podcast?
Absolutely. If you've never been and you have specific questions, please let us know. That we grew up literally going there all the time, and we both worked there. We both worked at DCA. There's just lots of useless knowledge in our heads. So if there's anything that you need to know or want to know while you're planning your trip, please leave it in the comments or message us, and we will gladly let you know what we think.
We hope this helped you if you're looking to plan a trip to Disneyland. And, we highly recommend that if you've only been to Walt Disney World, please go to Disneyland.
It's where Walt walked. It's where his apartment was.
It's where the light above the firehouse still burns for Walt.
Do not miss saying goodbye to Walt on your way out the door.
Before we go, we'd like to give a big thank you to our social media coordinator, Riley Piper, audio engineers Joey Humphrey and Paul Trett, logo designer Evan Piper, and our theme music composer Jacek Patrick Rowan, whose music is licensed through Pond 5. And of course, thank you, Phoenicians.
Thank you, Phoenicians. And don't forget to rate, review, like, and subscribe. It really does help other people find us. You can find us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. The Epcotian Adventure is a $1,000 brunch production and a proud gold member of D23.
Thanks for joining us today for episode 53 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And we'll see you in line. We hope you helped.
We hope we don't know.
I'm glad we helped.
And I helped.